This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Pasterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Greetings from the Grey Cup Festival in Vancouver, and welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Pasterson, Michael Remis with you on location, and the Grey Cup buzz is here right now. We got here and it was very quiet because the Fan Fest was not open, and now we have been taken over. This must be school day right now because there has to be a couple thousand young BC kids wearing Lions shirts, taking in all of the fun stuff here, the family fun zone, the little mini zip line, and a great way to kick things off. We, of course, got here last night after traveling after the program, hit the media party last night, which was great to see so many familiar faces, and we'll have a bunch of guys pop by over the course of the next couple days. We will have an episode of CFL 110 coming up. Jeff Hamilton's going to join me a little bit later on, so pay attention to the channel and turn your notifications on for that. Of course, you can also search CFL 110 wherever you get your favorite podcasts and throw that in there. Make sure you get a sub on that for more Grey Cup and Bomber content. Looking forward to doing that. And, of course, we're all over the Jets. They look to go 16-1 today in Tampa. Ken Wiebe's going to join us from Tampa a little bit later on today's program. Just want to quickly thank the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Of course, Garage Living Winnipeg presenting CFL 110, as well as our great sponsors at Coolbet Canada, Princess Auto, Canadian Club, Wallace & Wallace, Rollies Transfer, Manitoba Battery, F Apparel, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, the Winnipeg Jets, fansfirst.ca. We'll do some fan feedback coming up a little bit later on. And, of course, a why not question of the day for the gang at Not Autocorp at Waverly and McGillivray. Let's get this party started. Welcome to everybody in chat. Great to see you all. A lot of excited Bomber fans getting ready for Sunday. Already seen a few of them here in Vancouver. And Michael Remis joins me now. Remo, what is up?
Yeah, feeling good. This is my second Grey Cup in this kind of role, so excited to be here. We're at the festival and the convention center. Seems to be a lot of schools coming in, doing all the activities. You can
Kids are having fun.
I took an attempt at the field goal kicking. It's hard. You can check our Instagram story. You can see me not making it. So this is cool to be here. We had a great time at the media party last night, seeing so many members of the media that, I email or you talk on this, but never actually get to see in person. So, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are in the Grey Cup again. So
5 in a row.
5 in a row. Having some unfortunate flashbacks to last year, but trying to put those
Get over it.
in the past.
It's a new year. Looking to go 1-0 this weekend.
We're moving forward. So this is awesome and very exciting.
Yeah, the Bombers are practicing and doing their media availability later on this afternoon. So we hope to get to that, although it does sort of coincide with the early Jet game. With this being on the West Coast right now, that's 7 o'clock Eastern time zone and 6 o'clock Winnipeg is 4 o'clock here. So we'll figure out how to manage that. That being said, very excited for this hockey game, just to see if the Jets can keep on rolling. Before we get to that, you did mention the field goal. I was doing the lock shop here, and I saw Remis go over there. I had said that I was going to try it. He beat me to it, and it was Shank City. I mean, that was a line drive, an absolute line drive. Although, to be honest, in your defense, as I look at this, and again, check out the Instagram at Sports Talk WPG for this, is that not a bit higher than the actual field goal would be in the CFL? Like, I think it's on the riser a little bit. You might have hit the bottom line. It was a line drive, and it was right Did you get it after 2 more tries?
No.
Did you get one through?
No. I'm
0 for 3.
It wasn't good. So, look, we'll try it again. We'll see how it goes.
I'm getting it on the first time. I know it. I'm calling my shot right now. Check the Instagram for that a little bit later on. Hey, listen, before we get to the Jets, and we'll hear from Scott Arniel right away, we'll tell you Eric Comrie looks like he's getting the start. And no Braden Point for the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is a pretty significant injury. And he hasn't played since getting nicked up in that game against the Winnipeg Jets a couple weeks back in Winnipeg. But I want to start off talking, and of course, Grey Cup week tonight is the Player Awards for the Canadian Football League. And you know, the more I've thought about this and bounced this off people last night and at the media party and people that have covered this league for a long time, Brady Oliveira, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, has a chance tonight and on this weekend to put himself into incredibly select company. Brady Oliveira's been to the Grey Cup every single year that he's been in the Canadian Football League. He's got 2 Grey Cup rings, but again, the first year he was injured for most of the season, and the second year he was a backup. The 2 years as a starter, the Bombers have fell so close, but short of their ultimate goal. But tonight, Brady Oliveira is the favorite to win the most outstanding Canadian and the most outstanding player. If he wins the most outstanding player, he becomes only the 4th Canadian ever to win the MOP. Now, Russ Jackson did it 3 times, CFL legend, Tony Gabriel, and John Cornish, and then Brady Oliveira. If Brady's able to do this and win the Grey Cup on Sunday, he puts himself into a position, Remis, that he almost is already bound for the Hall of Fame based on what's happened so far this year. Now, listen, this young man has a lot of football left in the tank and a lot of football left to be played. But I'm not sure in the day-to-day following the Bombers and what the team is doing from game to game and where, you know, the 0-4 start and all that, I'm not sure we've spent enough time appreciating just how incredible of a career he's put together so far. We know football, more than any other sport, are short careers. And if Brady does the double tonight and then can finish the job in winning the Grey Cup, his name is going to go along the lines of some of the greats that have ever played the game, especially Canadians. Never mind a guy from Winnipeg doing it. I mean, it is an incredible story.
I agree, and I was thinking as I was getting ready for this trip, you know, the opportunity that he has to make a legacy with MOP, MOC, and what if he was, you know, named the Grey Cup MOP or Canadian. He's had rushing titles, Grey Cups, MOP nominees, and we'll see what happens tonight at the awards. I think, you know, Andrew Harris's career numbers are going to be very hard to top, but he's certainly making a name for himself, and we'll see. He's only, you know, 27 years old, turning 28 during next season. So certainly very exciting, you know, for Brady and for the Bombers. And I agree, you know, it's pretty crazy that you had, you know, pretty rare to have a running back from Winnipeg come in, have the CFL Hall of Fame career, win Grey Cups, and then have another running back also from Winnipeg who went to the same high school doing pretty much the same thing. Pretty incredible run of Winnipeg running backs here for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
It's funny you bring that up because I think in some ways, I mean, if Brady didn't come behind Andrew Harris, who had a Hall of Fame career of his own, and arguably the most, you know, impactful free agent signing in CFL history when you think about what he was able to do with the club and off the field, and how important his role was in kind of turning things around fan-wise, and the spirit he brought, the drive, and everything that he did on the field. If Andrew Harris, as a Winnipeg guy, wasn't already here, I think we might look at Brady's career as a Winnipeg guy even more uniquely. But when you look at the long list of guys that have played, you know, for the Bombers, that have done great things, that have won CFL awards, hometown guys doing it in their team just simply does not happen very often. So Brady Oliveira on the verge of some pretty special history tonight. But let's face it, for Brady and the entire Bombers, they'll give him his dues and, be happy for him tonight. It is all about Sunday afternoon and putting the D in Dynasty with the W in the 111th Grey Cup.
Yeah, I think, MOP awards, that's nice, Huss, but they're here to take care of some unfinished business, here to finish the story. And, I'm not going to say any words that used to describe teams that win a lot of titles in a row or in a short span, but you can be history here if they do win. On the flip side, Huss, imagine being the team that loses three Grey Cups in a row.
Fairly or unfairly, that's what the narrative will be around the Bombers if they don't win this game, especially coming in as such a big favorite without Chad Kelly playing for the Argos.
I'm getting very nervous about that idea. And look, I know the Bombers are huge favorites, but there's certainly a path for the Argos to win. They've won 2-0, including one of those games that did not have Chad Kelly. So look, if the Bombers, make mistakes and Argos are getting a lot of pressure, certainly possible. I don't want to talk too much, but I think those are conversations that we're going to have on Monday if they do lose. But if they win, it's going to be a big celebration. I'm excited for what's to come. And then you could say, oh, is this the greatest run? And then we can look ahead to the Grey Cup in Winnipeg next year. So, it could go it's going to go one of two ways here this weekend.
Yeah, listen, there is so much on the line for the Blue Bombers. Obviously the Elks or Eskimos back in the 80s, winning 5 in a row. That is not going to be touched. But, if you get this win and you've won 3 in 5 years and you've been there 5 years in a row and the 2 times you lost were incredible nail-biters, one by 1 point and one on a play in the final seconds of the game, I think you look back and say, what incredible run. And again, I don't want to get too much into this because I do have a great level of confidence in this football team and how they're approaching this, that they will get it done. But people won't spend very much time remembering the first 2 championships. They'll remember the missed opportunities in 3 more. And that brings us to, and again, we'll find this out more when we kind of get around the Bombers later on today. And we'll talk about it with DT. From speaking, with John yesterday and a bunch of the guys that have been here for a little bit that have been around the Bombers, it does seem like it is an incredibly business-like group right now that is taking things a little differently. They've added in a curfew this year. I think they're very clear they're here for one thing and one thing only, and that's to get another Grey Cup ring and put a stamp on this run for the last 5 years as the class of the Canadian Football League. Yeah,
I think they saw the missed opportunity the last couple of years, and they were both close games. They went down to the wire, went down to, the final plays, and interesting to hear, the business-like approach, as you said, curfew for the first time, and, you heard Brady Oliveira when they arrived say, oh, we're here, this is a business trip, so they're taking this seriously. They know the history that can be made here, win or lose, and they want to be on the right side of that and make sure they're putting themselves in the best position to win here on Sunday afternoon. I'm getting used to this time change. I almost got a burger for lunch, and I was like, oh, it's only 10.
Yeah,
seems. I don't know if it's burger time yet, but yeah, Sunday afternoon here in Vancouver.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm with you. My clock is somewhat screwed up from moving over. Shout out to Paul Maurice. Time zones. We all know how difficult those can be at times. But I'll tell you what, we'll be ready for this 4 o'clock start this afternoon. 6 o'clock back in Winnipeg for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll get back to the Bombers when Derek joins us coming up in just a little bit. But, man, I'll be honest. Listen, anyone that listened to the show yesterday or saw the show yesterday knew that I was still buzzing from the Jets-Ranger game the other day. And I cannot wait for this game tonight. I just want to see the Winnipeg Jets get back out there and see if they can keep this running, because that game on Tuesday night was a game that opened up a ton of eyes that people hadn't been paying attention to the Jets, and the way they did it, Remis, with the Showtime goals of the Mark Scheifele, the Gabe Velarde goal. I'm still getting messages about it. But now they go into a team that they just recently played that is a pretty formidable foe in their own right, even without Braden Point, who won't be playing this evening.
Yeah, then they're going with Eric Comrie in net. He's been undefeated this season as well. Really no lineup changes for the Winnipeg Jets, of course. And yeah, Braden Point, that's a huge loss for them. And that was a great game in Winnipeg as well. Just a couple weeks ago. So I don't. It's funny. Someone was mentioning going after Kucherov. I don't expect there's going to be anything there for the Kucherov hit on Kyle Connor. Maybe that. But I'm looking forward to seeing, can the Jets keep it going. Someone mentioned in the chat that they were actually underdogs in this game. Is that correct?
That is. We were just doing the lock shop, looking at the lines. Jets plus 113, and the Lightning minus 133. And listen, the Lightning, a top squad, playing at home. And I think the fact that Connor Hellebuck is not in, probably maybe the most impactful part of that, especially for everyone saw. That's the wildest thing about that game on Tuesday, is that there were such brilliant offensive plays and great goals, but there was awesome goaltending too on both sides. I mean, Igor Shesterkin, by the way, how about that? I got his name right. I've been calling him Ilya Shesterkin for I don't know how long, and it's just become a running bit. Igor Shesterkin was great, but Hellebuck, even in letting in 3, really continuing on his brilliant play from this historic start for his club and him as a person.
Yeah, well, he's got the goaltending triple crown: save percentage, goals against, and shutouts. He's first in all of them. And yeah, I guess if you were gonna make favorite or underdog, having that guy in your net would make a difference. But I don't think the Jets, look, we saw how many times they put up 6 goals this season. You saw the offensive magic last game with the Velarde goal, which I agree still getting, likes on X from retweeting that. So we'll see here. We'll see what happens tonight. But they're gonna lose. They're gonna lose at some point, right? Like this. I mean, how long until we're like, oh, this is, and they're no longer the greatest start in NHL history? Because it has been fun to go run, 14-1, 15-1. I mean, this is getting pretty absurd here.
Well, and that's the thing, I think, for the Jets. I mean, they're playing so well right now. They, to a man, seemingly are pleased with what they've done so far, but know that there's so much more work to be done. And let's face it, when you're in the middle of an NHL record streak, what can be better than keeping it going? And the way to keep that going is to win. And we've seen how much fun this team is having right now with the way they've started. And I mean, when you're a professional athlete, there is nothing that will do more to change the mood around a team than success. And no one's ever had this sort of success coming out of the gate. So I would say the Winnipeg Jets are probably one of the happiest teams that you'll ever find right now, but you want to keep that going. And of course, we talked a lot about this road trip. Going into New York, it was 9 of 10 games on the road for the Winnipeg Jets, and against some big time competition. And got this game tonight against Tampa, which, I mean, Eric Comrie had to play at some point, so he's going to get this start. And then you got Connor Hellebuck ready to go against the Florida Panthers in a home-and-home series Saturday in Fort Lauderdale, and back in on Winnipeg on Tuesday.
Yeah, the number 1 team and the number 2 team in the NHL going head-to-head. And I wonder, Paul Maurice, you think he started preparing his notes for the press conference in Winnipeg when he talks about how when they won the Stanley Cup, he said he wanted Winnipeg to win? Well, Paul, you got your wish, at least so far, because Winnipeg Jets are the only team better than theirs in the NHL. So I do wonder as well, if some of the players who played for Paul Maurice still, looking forward to playing him. As you mentioned, they are the Panthers have never won in Winnipeg with Paul Maurice as head coach. And remember Mark Scheifele with that statement game in their first visit. So it's been a couple years. I think they've gone their separate ways, but he was a big part of, a lot of these players' careers, in the early stages, and they had one of the deepest playoff runs with him as coach. So maybe there is something to look forward to, Saturday and Tuesday as well. But first tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 4 p.m. start here, but 6 in Winnipeg.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Derek Taylor's going to join us. We'll get back to the Bombers in a minute, and then Ken Wiebe coming up from Tampa. But we do have a short pre-game session with Coach Scott Arniel. He spoke, wasn't long. Ken was there. We'll kind of talk to him about it afterwards. But let's fire it up and get a quick pregame update post-morning skate with Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel. Here's Arnie.
But I don't imagine that changes much in terms of your guys' preparation.
No, there's still a lot of veteran players over there that know how to win hockey games, and they've had a week off here to kind of get themselves reset. We know Cooch is going to see an awful lot of ice time, and they gave us a tough one in our building. And this is actually the first time we're seeing a repeat opponent for the second time, and hopefully that get ourselves off to a good start here.
Looks like Eric Comrie tonight. What made tonight the night for him to get back in?
Again, it's just all that scheduling that's coming. Obviously we got Florida coming on back-to-backs. On home and home, and just we got to get some games in here. We got next week. We got a back-to-back that'll probably you'll have to get in one of those ones as well. So we know what the workload is looking like with the Four Nations, and then probably Helly playing in there. So we're trying to get Combs in as many games as possible to get him up and running.
Do you have a philosophy on back-to-backs? I know in the past, the number one guy often plays the first, or does it depend on opponent? Since you have a divisional game, or do you have a set philosophy, or does it sort of depend on the time?
I'm big on get the first one. Sometimes if you play that card where you save your big guy to the second one, you don't win the first. So I just think that we'll see where we're at on our rotation, but it's more about it's winning that hockey game compared. I know it's Pittsburgh Nashville, but if it ends up lining up where Helly goes first, I'm fine with Combs coming second.
John Cooper thought that one of the biggest strengths of your team in the early going has been that you don't beat yourself very often. How do you get to that point as a coach where that gets to that?
Well, I think that our group is really good at staying with our structure first and knowing we have a certain style of play that we have to play all the time to have success, and it's been built into us the last couple of years and obviously the start of this year. And when we get away from it, then games kind of get wide open. Obviously, the opposition gets way more looks than we want. But these guys do a real good job of resetting, whether it's from game to game or shift to shift, period to period. If we have a bad period, it's our veteran group that takes over. They kind of talk about getting back to, our structure and how we have to, play on a consistent basis.
All right, so there is Winnipeg Jet head coach Scott Arniel. Interesting talking about Comrie, and I mean, listen, with Hellebuck playing the way he had been playing over the last week, I mean, you want to keep him in. But he does make a good point. They know that Hellebuck is going to be playing in the Four Nations. They are going to want him at his best at the end of the season, which is going to mean leaning on the backup at times. And listen, they had such brilliant backup goaltending from Laurent Brossoit last year, Reem. It was sort of a luxury, to be honest, that a lot of other NHL teams haven't had. So far so good for Eric Comrie. The numbers look pretty good. I mean, there's still been a couple goals, particularly in that Calgary game, that I think he would have liked to have back, but so far so good. I mean, he has done the job, and the bottom line is he's undefeated so far this season. If he can keep on winning games, I don't think they'll be too concerned about how they get him.
Yeah, I agree with you. They're undefeated, and they have to get him games at some point, so we'll see how he goes tonight. It wasn't, we didn't talk about this the other day, that the Jets did claim Capo Kakinen off waivers and sent him down to the Manitoba Moose. I'm not really sure what's going to happen there, but Eric Comrie, he's on the roster. He's got to get into games, and I think we looked at the stretch here. The Tampa one kind of stood out. Maybe the Pittsburgh one coming up as well. And Hellebuck, look, how many games he play? 60? And he's going to play Four Nations. They add a couple more games. You want to have him fresh for the playoffs. So, unfortunately, going to have to sit him out here and there. He's played amazing so far, and you hope that play continues. And part of that is being fresh in the playoffs. And you don't really see too many goalies playing the 70 games anymore, like Marty Brodeur.
Yeah, no Artur Zerbe getting 79 starts in an 82-game season. Just looking at the chat right now, people are asking about how many games could he play in the Four Nations? Four Nations is pretty simple. It's a 3-game round robin, and then there's a championship game. So 4 games would be the max. There's no, I don't believe there's a 3-4 game. I was looking at the format the other day. So it's pretty clear every team is going to play each other. By the way, notice that they're using the 3-point standings.
Are they?
Yeah, of course they are.
Because it's international hockey?
Well, it's international
but it's
hockey.
an NHL-sanctioned event?
Yeah, well, maybe the NHL will get closer to actually finally doing the right thing and using the three-point standings. It'd be wild to see the three-point standings right now with the Jets, because it's not like they've been winning all their games in overtime and in shootouts or anything like that. They had the 2 early OT games against Minnesota and Chicago. And other than that, for the most part, was there one more OT game in there at one point earlier on in the season?
There's a couple early on, but yeah, a lot have been in regulation. And we don't need to go in, but that is interesting that they would go with the international format.
Well, the other thing is just, I mean, like, just for tie breaking, I think you have to have
in a short tournament.
In a short tournament like that, teams are playing 3 games, so I mean, you need to delineate from whooping a team 7-zip or winning 4-3 in a shootout or in 3-on-3 overtime or something like that. We are live from the McLaren Custom Grills Radio Row. McLaren Custom Grills, the only officially licensed CFL barbecue grills. To see and purchase the grills, go to McLarenCustomGrills.com. And this week only, you can use promo code CFL to get 10% off your McLaren Custom Grill. Don't forget, we've got CFL 110 coming up, brought to you by our friends at Garage Living Winnipeg. Also want to thank the gang over at Rolly's Transfer for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Rolly's Transfer, family owned and operated for over 60 years here in the city, and giving Manitobans the white glove treatment for moves as only the Rolly's team can do. If you have a move coming up for your family, we know how stressful that can be. Take as much of the stress out of it as possible and let Rolly's do the heavy lifting for you. Head on over to their website at rollies.com. You'll see up in the top right corner, you can request an estimate. Click on that and put WST in the promo code for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. Let them know when and where you're moving, what you're planning on moving, and the friendly Rollies team will turn it around quickly with a great quote for you and get you set for the big move. For all your moving needs, make it Rollies, the most trusted name in moving for over 60 years in Manitoba. Find out more online and request an estimate today at rollies.com. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery, they're ready for the Grey Cup. Huge Bomber fans there, but they're also ready for winter. Now are you. It's time to get ready before winter gets you, and that means getting into Manitoba Battery and making sure you're prepared. Now, they can help you. If you're wondering where your battery's at, pop by either of the locations for a free test. And if you need a new battery, you'll get at least $10 off your new one, making the best battery prices in Manitoba even better. They've also got great deals on 12-foot booster cables, 25-foot booster cables, and a 2,000-amp charger. And, of course, in addition to all of that, Manitoba Battery's got the best service around. Free delivery anywhere inside the perimeter with any purchase over $60. No one wants to be freezing their ass out in minus 30 boosting a car. Make sure that's not you. Get ready for winter before winter gets you at Manitoba Battery, manitobabattery.com. And tell you what, there's going to be some nice suits this evening on Brady Oliveira, the nominees at the CFL Player Awards. Guys, if you need to get a new suit or just up your menswear game in general, get on over to our friends at F Apparel at 190 Smith Street. Custom suits beginning at $400. Chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the biggest and best selection of menswear accessories around as well. Again, 190 Smith Street is F Apparel. Check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting as well at their website at EPHapparel.com. All right, I think it's time to bring in the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, none other than our pal Derek Taylor of 680 CJOB. DT, it was great to see you yesterday at the media party, and I see you've now got some backup. I saw Mackling running around here as well.
Yeah, Mackling is coming to town. If there's a party, Greg Mackling is going to find it.
Well, he was late.
He was late to the party
last night.
but he brings a significant part of the party with him. So it's It's good to have him here. We'll do shows Saturday morning and a pre-game show on Sunday. And he's as big a Bomber fan as there is from when he was a wee lad. So,
well, I'm looking forward to. I've been on the air since I saw him walking around. I am looking forward to talking to him and just getting where his the vibe check with Greg, because I do remember the Monday after last year's Grey Cup where we were all getting ready to go home. He was doing his show, we were doing ours, and it was just that feeling of loss was so close, but they didn't get it done. And you know what, man, this is, I mean, how do you see this matchup and what's at stake for the Bombers, big picture? Because obviously we're talking, Mike O'Shea, one game, we want to go 1-0.
Yeah.
But to me, in a lot of ways, this is sort of going to determine the way people look at the last 5 years of Blue Bomber football.
This is the dynasty game, right? If you win 3 and you go to 5 in a row, no one apart from the real truthers could deny football dynasty.
Yeah.
No team since 1982 has been to 5 or more straight Grey Cups, right? The Edmonton Elks from 77 to 82. It's a special thing that we're in the midst of as Bomber fans. And if you win 3, well, the naysayers might still have, yes, but Chad Kelly didn't play. And then I think you and I will go, yeah, that's not a thing. That's absolutely not a thing. If you win 3 Grey Cups in 5 years, come on. And you're hosting it next year? Come on, man. That's special territory that happens, well, for us, twice in our lives now. So, yeah.
Obviously that Edmonton club of the early 80s is the dynasty. I mean, winning 5 in a row. Listen, the Bombers had a chance to be there, but the bottom line is, through a number of circumstances, they fell just short. I mean, the one-pointer in the Toronto game, and we'll get to Toronto in a minute, and last year, that miracle run by Cody Fajardo at the end of the game to win the game, and, in a big upset. This game tonight, this game on Sunday, I should say, a chance to really erase a lot of the pain of those last 2 losses, and I think put the Bombers rightly into one of a very select company of the greatest runs over 5 years in Canadian football history. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Yeah.
To be honest, even if they lost, you'd say, wow, that team is really good. But it's not like you lost 3 and then won the last 2. When you start off with 2 and then fall short, that's what people will be thinking about, and that's what they'll be talking about.
Think of the teams that we've seen that have been amazing that haven't been able to go to 5 straight Grey Cups. Remember how unbelievably dominant Calgary was from 14 to 19 included? They get to the West Front, whatever it was. They finished 3rd in 19. Calgary was so good with Bo Levi Mitchell, didn't go to 5 straight. Montreal in the aughts did not go to 5 straight Grey Cups. And the super interesting thing, as I've been talking to folks and kind of rehashing the last couple of Grey Cups, the Bombers could be 4-0 in Grey Cups, or they could be 1-3 in Grey Cups, right? That the 2019 game, no question who was winning that. 2021 game, Hamilton almost gets a touchdown against the wind at the very end there. If they don't stop Don Jackson and Jalen Acklin and force them into a field goal, well, they might have come up short in that. Like, the margins in these are so thin.
The single point, I still think about that single point given up in that second Grey Cup championship.
Incredible blunder that the Bombers were happy to take advantage of. Let's take the worst of the 3 possible options in fielding this kickoff and go that way, right? So the margins are super thin. So when I look back at it, and I hope when we look back at it in 20 years, you think, well, just getting to that game and not hitting those tripwires along the way. Upstart BC team with Nathan Rourke, upstart BC team with Vernon Adams. Saskatchewan in 2019 was red hot, had the game at home. Bombers had to come from 3rd place, and the crossbar. They had to overcome Marcus Sayles having it slip through his hands on 3rd down. You go, all these things that have to go right. And 2021, they were so dominant, they gave the ball to Sass 6 times. They almost fell on their face in that one, but they persevered, and other teams haven't been able to do it. But here are the Bombers, led by Zach Collaros and company, able to get back again, and a massive favorite. I'm sure you've been given the cool bet line as it drops a little bit, which is interesting, but massive favorites in this game.
Yeah, just a quick update on that line. Opened at 7.5, went to 10.5 almost right away. It's now settled at 9, and I have a feeling 9, 8.5 in and around is probably where this is going to be, barring any sort of personnel change that we haven't seen that would potentially move it. Listen, a couple things I want to get to about tonight and tomorrow, but just before we do, I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk to you about last Saturday for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, obviously it started off very heavily for so many of us, good friends. I mean, losing Ted the way that we did, that was heartbreaking, especially for such a massive day for Winnipeg sports. The Jets go out and win to go 14-1. But, you know, with Ted on everyone's minds and beautiful tributes by both teams, the Bombers went out in front of, I don't think there's a question. I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of people trying to compare last Saturday to other sold-out playoff games. And, you know, the one that really stands out is that West Final a few years ago against the Riders, which was, of course, in December, which was much colder. I mean, the combination of where this team is, how they battled back to do it, the familiarity, the love for the team of what they've achieved so far, with the Riders coming in, and such a beautiful day, it amped up the energy. Like, to me, the bar has been set now again at Princess Auto Stadium, but what a performance by the team on the field, as well as everyone supporting them in blue in the stands.
Did we have any expectation that the offense was going to be able to perform like that? No, like it was incredible. Hey, by the way, there goes Kenny Lawler, Amari Henderson. You might want to track him because he's already got 2 touchdowns. Nope, Zach just hit him for a 3rd. Like it was bonkers. And I mean, it's at no point this season, maybe the Edmonton game, have they had all 3 phases go in a win, right? They put up 55, whatever it was in that Edmonton game. But last year we were used to these offense is awesome, defense is awesome, special teams getting it done, boom, Bombers win. They won 29 games the previous 2 seasons. This season, the defense has been good. The offense has been, well, the lowest scoring offense in the CFL for a long stretch of the season. If they didn't finish that way, you go, okay, well, special teams were not in good form last week at all, and they survived it. And I mean, after that 3rd quarter touchdown, the game just wasn't close, and there wasn't really a threat from Saskatchewan to get back into it. That, you know, the punt block and the punt run and the Lucky Whitehead fumble weren't a problem because there were 2 other phases that were going strong. And yeah, against the Toronto team, at which they've had 0 success this year, they're going to need. It'd be great if they could have all 3, but it'll be interesting which team's 2 strong phases show the strongest, or the 3rd one comes from nowhere.
Well, I'll say this. I have a feeling there might be an extra special teams meeting or 2 this week. First of all, to prevent what happened last week. But I think they'd be doing that anyways because of a guy that they know very well on the other side in Engineering and Grant. Listen, we'll get to Sunday's game in a minute. But before we do that, I want to talk about tonight. I opened the show talking about this, and had some interesting conversations last night with some of our colleagues from around the league that are outside of Winnipeg. Brady Oliveira has the opportunity tonight.
Are you setting me up to get savaged again by your great audience here at Winnipeg Sports Talk?
Well, I don't know. We'll see how bad this take is. It's about to come for me. Brady Oliveira has the chance to win the MOP and the Most Outstanding Canadian. He will be in his 5th Grey Cup technically. I mean, he won the first 2 rings, but he was injured the first year, was a backup. Has not won as a starter yet, but has been a huge part of this, hopefully we can call dynastic Bombers period.
Yep.
Could be only the 4th Canadian ever to win the MOP. Behind Russ Jackson, Tony Gabriel, and John Cornish.
Yeah.
And obviously the Most Outstanding Canadian as well. If Brady Oliveira wins these 2 awards, as people expect he will tonight, and then gets that Grey Cup ring as the starter, where does that put him into the annals of some of the great Canadian players? Like, I think we almost take him for granted, the fact that he's come after Andrew Harris, another guy. Like, let's not forget that he's freaking from Winnipeg and went to Oak Park. I mean, it is such an incredible story, and I think Andrew's presence beforehand maybe has a lot of people not recognizing how special this run is and what a special player Brady is and what he's done for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Which is totally fair, right? We're used to excellence. I use that same comparison with receivers who came after Dalton Schoen of don't expect rookies in 23 and 24 to be Dalton Schoen because some guys are just so special. But, like, I guess my hope is that Brady Oliveira doesn't bury Sanders off into the sunset going, yeah, I'm good. Like, because he's been unbelievable. And it's the offense that, I mean, the offense is the driver, the line, Buck Pierce's system. It makes 1,800 yards from scrimmage, 2,000 last year possible for Brady Oliveira. But, I mean, after, Game 7 of 2022, he's been everything we could have wanted and more. He's on the field for more than 90% of the offensive snaps. Like, what running back in the league does that these days? There aren't many. They're getting fewer and further between. Edmonton's running 3 guys at a time. Calgary is like, well, which rotating one do we want this week, right? Brady takes it all. And I mean, a career high in receptions this season. He's been unbelievable. And, you know, full credit to Isaac Adeyemi-Berglund of Montreal, but if it isn't a shutout in the most outstanding Canadian award tonight, I'm gonna try to find the people who voted for him.
Brawling at the FRC suite later on, trying to find out who was that didn't go for Brady. I mean, he's got to be a slam dunk for that. And I would.
MOP though, MOP's a tough award because
do you
against
actually
the quarterback,
think that he might not win?
I started to get concerned because Bo's numbers are pretty good. I'm of 2 minds of Bo's numbers. His team won 7 games. He got benched partway through because he wasn't great. His numbers, if you look at them, are kind of equatable to McLeod Bethel Thompson's numbers. And McLeod Bethel, nobody was talking MBT for MOP, which rhymes and would have been super good had it played out, but nobody's doing that. When it came down to my ballot, and last year famously.
Yes, we remember.
Yeah. For
your
folks,
guy, Chad Kelly.
For folks who didn't, I voted for Chad Kelly and not Brady Oliveira last season on 2,000 yards. And these two guys, their eyes just went, you what? And I got savage thanks to the good folks at Winnipeg Sports Talk. But when I looked at it, this year was so different for the Bombers in that the passing offense was not nearly as impactful as it was last year. And there were so many games where they needed those 12 games where Brady had more than 100 yards from scrimmage. They needed those to win football games. They needed those to even have a chance to win football games. He was so impactful in the run game, and I could go on a importance of running backs in the run game thing for 15 minutes. But to me, I looked at it and I went, you know what, Brady, for what he meant to a team that won 11 games, I just couldn't go the other way. I don't necessarily have a reservation against voting for a quarterback whose team isn't in the playoffs, but if Bo's numbers were 6,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, that would have been hard, even if his team missed the playoffs. But for this year, for me, it was Brady Oliveira.
I would argue that if he was 6,040 TDs, they wouldn't have missed the playoffs. I mean,
how bad would your defense have to have been, right? How many drops would Tim White have had to cost you the game with for that to not come through?
I'll say this. I think if we were talking about Brady with the exact season that he's had in other years, maybe he doesn't win.
But
this
year
was such a weird season, especially in the East. I mean, speaking of lines, I mean, we were looking at, I want to say, like, I've got a Brady Oliveira 14-1 ticket to win the MOP. I mean, that was like mid-season, like in and around the Labor Day games, and like Fajardo was still like minus 286 or something like that. Well, Fajardo
had no chance at that point.
Didn't even end up being the guy towards the end. And then they obviously sat him down. And then Kelly missed half the season. It was up and down. Drew Brown missed a bunch of time. Like, Jake Mayer was basically the only quarterback in the Canadian Football League that was healthy and played the entire way outside of Bo, who again was benched. And Bo did have a real quality season. But certainly from the folks that I talked about, I think the expectation is that this is going to be Brady's night.
Can I tell a gambling story here? Is this a gambling safe space?
Please. Of course it is.
I was getting set to do the coaches show one day, and I wish I could pull up the date of it, but it was in August, it was in September, whenever it was. It was later in the season, and I phoned up my buddy, Aaron Karolnik, because he and I talk gambling all the time.
AK, he's sharp. He's sharp.
And the most outstanding player odds were so out of whack for how the season was developing, because it was clear if it wasn't going to be Fajardo, there's no quarterback that should probably win this award. And they had Price. So he and I talked that day, and the conclusion we came to was, AK, you need to get all the Brady at plus 6,000 at the time.
60-1?
60-1. He is sitting on tonight.
Oh, my God.
Aaron Carolina. We had that conversation. I'm like, this price, he might not win it. He might not put up 2,000 like last year. But this price is so out of whack. Roland Milligan was 100-1 at the time. Bo Levi Mitchell was 100-1. There was a point where William Stanback was 200-1. And if Stanback kept going, he was going to be in contention if BC won the West. You go, this is a once in a decade opportunity for bettors who got in on Brady Oliveira. 14-1. You must be just frothy because he had to be minus 300 by the time the season started wearing on.
I'll tell you what, it went from 14-1 that week. The following week was plus 140. Like the next week.
Yeah.
And again, it was sort of like, oh, wait a second. They're probably like, why are all these Winnipeg people betting Brady Oliveira at 14-1? So he's done that, but
plus 6,000. He's sitting on for tonight. AK, I'm sorry to out your business, but I know we've talked about this a ton.
AK's heading to the champagne room tonight, I think, after the awards are announced. But this is going to be really neat. I mean, I think Brady has a great chance of doing that. And, you know, as I said, the bar was set so high by Andrew Harris, and they got such a similar and unique background.
Yeah.
But to have a hometown player, like I'm taking myself back to 15 years ago. And the thoughts of a Winnipeg guy starting for the Bombers, period, seemed like, oh, that would be neat to have a Winnipeg guy winning MOP and most outstanding player, and this team being on the verge of a third Grey Cup in 5 years. I mean, it's a charmed life Bomber fans have been living for the last little while, though it's ended up miserably in this game for the last 2 years, and that's why Sunday's so important.
Yeah, and we talked about this a bunch last year. Brady and Nick Dembski were the first Canadian teammates to go 1,000. Well, they were right back doing it this year, and it kind of went under the radar, but even that is so special. And, oh, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, Nick Dembski is also a Winnipegger who went to the University of Manitoba. Like
Anarch Park.
It's incredible, and I mean, you brought up Andrew Harris earlier. Harris didn't ever do the double. You named the guys that did it because there were, quarterbacks. Michael Riley played at the same time, and Bo Levi Mitchell was at his peak. And you go, yeah, this is a special year where Brady's performance was awesome in a year where quarterbacks and sacks were not a thing in the CFL. The league leader in sacks had 8. Matthew Betts had, 17, 18 last year?
Yeah.
Matthew Betts, had he been in the CFL, runaway MOP. A guy with 18 sacks would have won the award going to, running home. It would have been incredible.
Such a weird year, but hopefully we can get back to normalcy Sunday at BC Place with the Bombers being back on top. By the way, T. Will, the Super Chat, the start of the YouTube Super Chat fund to get Huss to try out that obstacle course on stream. And, of course, for Ted. Thanks a lot, T. Will. Had a nice one as well. Here's Slick Maigri. Continuation of the obstacle course fun. Let's go, Huss and Remo. Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's kids climbing walls here. Remis was shanking field goal attempts a little while ago. There's a lot going on. A little mini zip line as well.
On the big uprights or the little uprights? Which one was he?
The big.
Okay, good. Yeah. Those are the athlete size ones. Yeah.
Although technically, I think I'd rather kick it into the big than the small. You got a much bigger chance to put it through. You're a numbers guy.
Yeah, you would absolutely. I was so we're at the media party last night, and I'd never met Sean White before, the BC Lions kicker who got absolutely hosed in the Special Teams Award last year, and is generating grants probably going to win it this year. And Mike Benavides, the special teams coach of the Lions, like, this is Sean. This is Derek. He really knows kicking. And then Sean White goes, "Have you ever kicked?" And I'm like, whoa. Mike said that. Like, Sean White at 39, one of the most accurate kickers in CFL history. Another fantastic season. I'm like, I've never been so rattled by a 5'7" guy in my lifetime as I was by sitting next to Sean White.
You bring this up, and this is more a football question in general, but we can certainly speak to Sean White and Sergio and the guys here in the NFL now. 57, 58-yarders are automatic, it seems.
Yep.
Why has kicking got so much better in the last 3-4 years? Really?
Coaching, specialization, year-round training. Like, there are my Twitter feed is filled with kicking camps, and here's Ty Long, who was the 2017 Lions Most Outstanding Player, running the kicking camp. And there are just so many camps and specialization, and yeah, now Sergio is. I mean, this year alone, he set the career record for 60-yard plus field goals. It's bonkers. He set the record for 50-plus yard field goals. Calgary finally a couple years ago started letting Rene Paredes kick from distance. Ottawa 3-4 years ago started letting Lewis Ward kick from distance. I don't know if it's great for the game because I'd love to see more guys going on 3rd and 3 and get more touchdowns. But, man, if you have confidence in Sergio from 61 to win the game in Montreal, that says a lot about where kickers have gone. It's funny. In my kicker rankings, I had to time adjust because if you include back to like Troy Westwood's time, Westwood was, I think, 77%. You would have a job for 2 weeks now. And they'd be like, yeah, we're going to go find somebody else because Sean White, 94, Rene Paredes, 93, Sergio was 80. People think he had a bad season, but he's hammering 50-yarders like it's no problem at all.
He had one really tough game and then a couple of other...
And the chip ball game in week 1, which you kind of have to put aside. But if you talk about points created, Sergio Castillo and Rene Paredes are right there at the top this season, and it's unbelievable how far that craft has come, and we're seeing the punting revolution as well. So if you like special teams, and your name is not Doug Brown, because Doug Brown hates special teams.
He's a hater.
Oh,
Definite
my God.
Hater.
Let the real athletes get back on the field, to paraphrase. If you like kicking and punting, or you would like a job for 20 years, you have a son or daughter who might like to play football for 20 years, teach them to kick.
I didn't see a lot of Bombers thinking that the kicker wasn't important in Montreal as they put Sergio on their shoulders, bringing him off the field after that, after booking a bye in the West Final at home.
After the 22 Grey Cup, where the blocked field goal, I was debating with folks today, was that Leggio kick that was blocked going wide? Did he kick it right into the guy's hand? Kicking is
speaking, he had a nice bounce back season.
Yeah, it was above average, which for a guy who's struggled, and Hamilton re-upped him. You're like, okay. Yeah. Sometimes it takes some time to get there, and they're so. When White to me yesterday says, "Have you ever kicked?" You know exactly what goes into that. Of everything has to be so fine. You can't even have a gust of wind affect your drop or your plant, right? Or else all of a sudden Montreal loses a game to the Bombers. It's such an art form now, and it's incredible that, 90% is going to be the standard within a couple of years, and if you're not kicking 90, get out.
Hey, let me just, before we wrap this Brady Oliveira conversation, let me put this out to the chat. Why not question of the day for not Autocorp but Waverly and McGillivray. Looking forward to seeing the Not Boys here in Vancouver for the game on the weekend. Bomber fans, in your mind, if Brady Oliveira can both win the double tonight, the most outstanding Canadian and the most outstanding player, and have a big game in a Bomber win on Sunday.
Oh.
Where does that, because that's part of it.
Are we talking quadruple?
That's part of it.
MOP, MOC, most valuable Canadian, most valuable player?
Well,
can you imagine?
Then we're taking it to even another level. But the most important thing is getting the ring and getting the win in addition to tonight. Where does that put Brady, even at this point in a relatively young career, in the annals of not just Bombers, but Canadian stars in CFL history? Interesting your thoughts. You can let us know in the chat. As far as the game goes, Bombers are favored. I really believe that they come out with the focus and execution level that they did on Saturday. They will be good. But man, Toronto's played them tough this year. Zach Collaros has been on his ass half the time and running for his life. And then special teams is so big in the Canadian Football League, and we've sort of alluded to this, but if the Bombers had that special teams performance last weekend in, well, let's just say one of the other games they had against Saskatchewan, they're not winning the football game. So
100%.
How do you see this one, and where's your confidence level that the blue and gold can get it done?
Someone this morning asked me what would you have to see to guarantee a Bomber win? I'm like, if the Bombers scored 20 points on offense, to me that's going to be enough. Like that said, they scored 25 in the 2 games combined against Toronto so far this season. You mentioned the sacks. Zach is sacked 2.5 times as often against Toronto versus any other team in the CFL. They need to hold that down. So the 2 phases that I think they can count on, defense is going to defense, and Nick Arbuckle has his limitations. So I think the defense is going to hold its own. I think special teams, they have the best cover teams in the Canadian Football League. They held down Janarian Grant in the regular season. So even though last week's game wasn't particularly good, I'm not super concerned there. It's will the offense show up? Will it be able to show up, or will that front six of the Argos absolutely wreak havoc on them? Like 7 sacks last time, and it was everybody who got along the line. You go, okay, if that's happening, you can't really operate, because Zach's numbers against Toronto are silly. Is it 76% completion? But the 12 sacks obviously take a big hole out of the offense. So if the offense can score 20 points, which in the CFL in 2024 isn't a big number, I think it's actually would be the worst in the CFL over a season. If you can just do that, I think they have enough on defense, and just the drop from Kelly to Arbuckle and how Dinwiddie's going to have to manage that. To me, that's enough to win the football game. If it's tight, and if it's the Argos plus the points and the under, if that's your parlay, I would understand how you get there, because 19-11 Bombers to me would totally be in play.
Total for the game's 51. Blown away.
Bonkers.
Yeah,
that's bonkers.
Anyways, the people are asking me on the lock show, okay, what's your favorite bet? Easy. Under 51.
Yeah.
In this game coming up. DT, we got a nice super chat for Raiders. Let the CFL allow Derek Taylor to call the Grey Cup. That would be nice. But it won't be happening this year. However, you're going to be doing some shows on Saturday, as well as extended pregame for Bomber fans all day. Fill people in on what's going on over at the Superstation.
Okay, Pacific time is screwing me up, but the Grey Cup kicks off. The official broadcast is at 5 o'clock Winnipeg time. We have a 2-hour pregame show from TSN from 3 to 5. Greg Mackling and I and the usual cast of characters will do CJOB's pregame show from 1 until 3. So, gosh, that is 9 hours of Grey Cup coverage. Then we'll jump on the postgame show with Kelly Moore and Christian O'Mell and Doug Brown as well. We'll have all the celebrations, I say with my fingers tightly crossed, in the postgame show. So we're covered on CJOB. Greg Mackling will anchor a show on Saturday that you will be able to get that will cover his adventures in and around the Grey Cup. I'll have reports from walkthrough. Rosters will be released. I don't expect anything big changes on the roster for the Bombers or Argos, but yes, we are loaded at 680 CJOB for the weekend. Follow me on Twitter at DTONOB as well for all the latest. And I'm just saying the plus the points and the under when it gets to be that line. That's it's a pretty solid wager.
Hey, great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Have a great week, and may you be emceeing a big celebratory party in the Peg next week.
I've been to the Western Final calling games every year of my play-by-play career. No team I've called for has won the Grey Cup, so
it's time. Get DT to that party.
Shout out to Waiters. I was using your stuff to do some stats earlier on, and I'm going to spend about 2 hours on there right now doing some more stuff to prep for Sunday.
A lot of people in the chat don't know Waiters. Big YouTube guy. Check the channel. Does a lot of great work.
So valuable.
Big CFL guy as well.
Yep.
Hey, thanks again for coming in. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
There's Derek Taylor. Again, 1 p.m. Sunday, extended coverage from Vancouver. DT, Greg Mackling, and that'll take you right into the national broadcast of the 111th Grey Cup. All right, Kenny's going to join us from Tampa right away to get ready for the game tonight. Let me first give a big thanks to our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, man, we put the win in Winnipeg last Saturday, and Princess Auto helped us send 3 Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners to both the Jets and the Bombers game. Of course, Princess Auto, founded and headquartered in Winnipeg, and big supporters of both of our local teams, not to mention the Gold Eyes and much more, and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Pop by your local Princess Auto, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, and of course out in Brandon as well for the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. You can always peruse and maybe dream up your next project as well online at princessauto.com 24/7, 365. We hope to be cheersing a Blue Bomber victory with Canadian Club here in Vancouver on Sunday night. Of course, Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And do not forget now, with the holidays just around the corner, now's the time to get your local Manitoba liquor marts and get the limited quantities available of this year's edition of the Canadian Club Invitation Series. The 18-year-old just won an award at the World Spirits competition, and it's only $79.99. Bottled at a higher proof this year. Pop by and grab it. It'll be amazing for enjoying yourself, entertaining, and a perfect gift for that whiskey lover in the family. Again, pop by right now while supplies last to your local Manitoba liquor marts for the latest edition of the Canadian Club Invitation Series. We're going to bring Ken on right away, but let me shout out our friends at Wallace & Wallace, the fencing and overhead door specialists in town since 1946. Wallace & Wallace has you covered if you need a new fence, vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood. And if you do have a need for a new garage door, Wallace & Wallace has the biggest selection of garage doors in town, one perfect to fit and match your home perfectly, which will also add value to your home. Give them a call, 204-452-2700. The Wallace & Wallace team will arrange a time to come out and give you a free estimate. You can also visit them online at wallacefences.com or pop down to their showroom on Lawson Crescent off of Kenniston. All right, I think our man, Ken Wiebe, is ready to roll. This is great. I actually get to see the magic happening, what Remis has to do behind the scenes to bring Ken in. And I think Ken is ready to join me on the program. Wiebe, what's going on? How are you, pal?
I got to bring him up.
Yeah, you got to bring him up. You got to bring him up.
Sorry, one sec. I always forget how to do this part. Wait, I don't know if his microphone is working. No, it is. That is us.
It is. Okay, hang tight here, Ken.
Hang tight.
There's a
Ken.
method to the madness here, especially with these road shows at times.
I forget how to do this every time.
I can tell you that the Fan Fest here is still rocking. Few thousand school kids having a great time. I think we've got Ken, and I have seen one lone Argo fan who's ironically wearing a AJ Ouellette jersey. Wiebe, what's up? How's things down in FLA?
Yes, us. It's blazing hot here, but we're doing fine. Now I have an echo.
Okay, I'll fix that.
Now you have an echo. Okay, that echo will be fixed right away. It's not the smoothest of ships today, but as long as it gets steered into the port by the time we're good, we should be it. Is the echo off?
Yeah,
now?
It's good. It's
okay,
good.
right on.
Thank you, Remo. Good work.
Wiebe, before we get to tonight and the morning skate and everything, what was it like being in that building for that game at MSG? I mean, that one pulled me out of my seat a number of times, not to mention a couple jaw droppers with goals. I mean, it's funny that they were in New York City because I sometimes make Globetrotters jokes. The Jets went Globetrotters at times against the New York Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a fun environment to be around. I mean, most famous arena in the world for a good reason. Lots of highlight reel specials in there for sure, no doubt about that. And I would even say that the Scheifele GWG was a subtle play that is really smart. I mean, Dylan DeMello, just a great feed after getting it from Connor. But the subtlety of Dylan DeMello told me this morning, he called it the backhand sand wedge by Scheifele. He just put his stick in long enough to show him it would be there, but not long enough to be checked. So that was obviously a highlight reel special. And Jets are really, I mean, obviously the power play goal is absolutely obscene, right? So Velarde to Ehlers, back to Velarde. So yeah, I mean, the building was rocking. And again, I think it was a great opportunity for the Jets to turn a few heads, right? I mean, walked into the rink with a couple of our friends who were, genuinely curious how the Jets have done it and could they continue to do it, right? But, I think that a lot of people left press row thinking, man, the Jets are not a paper tiger. They are a team that has a lot of gumption and skill to go along with the strong start, and they don't look like a team that's going to be easing off the gas pedal anytime soon. Huss, that's probably, again, some folks won't like the comparison, but there's a lot of joy every day, but there's a little bit of New England Patriots just show up and do your job to these Jets also, and I don't see any complacency setting in at all.
No, and I give the coaching staff a lot of credit. And I think, and you'd be a great person to talk to with this, it really does feel like this stretches back, Ken, to like the first day of training camp. I mean, there was, I've kind of referred to it as scar tissue. I think that team, much like the fans did, they had to eat that 4 games after winning the game 1 against Colorado. And I think that, it seemed like a lot of guys took it to heart, came back more determined than ever, and they all bought into giving themselves the best chance to be as good as they can be. And listen, they've worked on the things that were problematic last year. The turnaround in special teams has been absolutely insane. But also now, Ken, they are playing top to bottom team hockey, and everyone is contributing to these things. But do you agree this is sort of a mindset that they took before they even really got on the ice for a regular season game?
Yeah, you know what, Hassan, it reminds me of what Josh Morrissey said at the end of Game 5 and how, the players better take it personally and that they better learn from it, because the scar tissue's been building since 2018 for this group, quite frankly, Huss. And we talked a long time, you and I, in the offseason. It's a long offseason from May 1st until September 17th or 18th. Imagine what it's like for a player not being able to play in a game for that long, and your lasting memory of a glorious season in the regular season was getting swept 4 straight after you won the first game and you had all this promise. So I do think a lot of those players, especially the core group, us, took it personally, and they've done something about it. And I know, again, if we're being honest, you and I and several others, we probably left some of those meetings and exit meetings with the whole get 10% better thinking. Man, that's the messaging for the offseason, get 10% better. But now we're starting to look at some of the measurables, us, and it's easy to quantify 10% better, with team play, with structural play, with special teams play, with, goaltending I'm hesitant to use because the goaltending has almost always been excellent since Connor Hellebuyck showed up here. But the lasting memory for Jets fans were, unfairly or not, 24 games allowed by the best goalie on the planet in a single series. So, again, I'm not saying it was Hellebuyck's fault. He had almost no help in front of him, but goaltending didn't elevate to the elite level in the playoff series either. So I think Connor Hellebuyck went home and was pretty determined. I don't think he used the 10% number. I think he went home and went into beast mode, and that's how he's played out of the gate with the 12-1 record.
He has been simply phenomenal. And I know, you look at a game and 6-3, 3 goals to get in. He was as much a part of that win against the New York Rangers than, anyone on the top line that accounted for 5 of their 6 goals.
Yeah. No, he was great, right? And there were a couple of, because the Rangers play such a wide open game, Huss, it wasn't always big and boring that evening for Hellebuyck, right? There were a couple of sprawling saves, some wild rebounds, but he really stabilized the position. And Huss, the goodness truth is that Connor doesn't like talking about the other guy across from him. And to me, talk about scar tissue, for me, that dates back to 2018 when Connor Hellebuyck was dropping "I like my game more than his" to the guy at the other end that was rocking 960. So I think that he's sort of gotten away from talking about the guy across the crease from him. But at the same time, I think he absolutely relished going head-to-head with U.S. backup Jake Ottinger. And he loved going head-to-head with fellow Vezina Trophy winner Igor Shesterkin. And again, he's not going home and saying this to his friends or family members, but I think he would have been dropping something along the lines of, "Hey man, this is why I have 2 and you have 1 Vezina Trophy after Tuesday's effort," even though I think Shesterkin was more than fine in the net for the Rangers, and that game could have been a little bit more, a wider deficit for the Rangers in that one also. But man, we talk about the top line, and us, I've told you it's been trending this way for a while.
Yep.
And now that it's 11-10 for that line of Scheifele, Connor, Velarde, I think they're turning believers into a lot of people, the dissenters who said it could never work. And I'm here to tell you, Hutz, I asked both players after the game, and today I asked Gabe Velarde after about building chemistry. And when I mentioned the fact to him that they only had 17 games together last year and that not many of them had a healthy Connor or a healthy Velarde, he said, quite frankly, it takes more than, less than a quarter of a season
to start feeling better about how you fit in with those two guys who have played together for 7 or 8 years. And, and he also, quite frankly, said to me, Huss, that they have been way better with their puck management, which was one of the reasons they had been outscored 9-2 in the first 7 games of the regular season. And that takes a special gift, the self-assessment, Huss, right? I mean, you want to be better. And if that line wanted to stay together, they knew they couldn't be running that kind of a -7 goal deficit, no matter how many of those goals were due to some bad luck in the early going. They also knew it was due to turnovers, and they've cleaned up those turnovers and have absolutely been often dominating their opponents in this last, 8 games.
Yeah, a couple other things just before we get to Tampa, because it was just such a spectacular win by the Jets. I wanted to touch on a couple things. The way, and I mean, you tell me that this looked the same to you being in the rink than it did on television. I thought the Jets, blue liners, notably Neil Pionk in particular, did such a good job of getting the puck and almost instantaneously moving it up, making quality passes, getting it to the forwards and getting it out of the zone. Best example probably was on Kyle Connor's goal, or I guess the non-empty netter with that long
goal,
pass. Yeah. Thoughts on that, the movement, and then the play of the fourth line, Ken, who, to be honest, looked like the Lowry line at times.
Yeah, first with the forwards, Huss, I mean, this was a defense optional game for the Rangers at times. They've been in a bit of a funk, even though their record was 9-3-1 going into the game. It was a absolute odd man rush fest for the Jets, and that was related to what you talked about. Quick ups and finding the outlets. The Rangers got nothing going on the forecheck, and it led to all kinds of discombobulation in their back pressure and back checking. It was non-existent. Mika Zibanejad turned the puck over 3 times on different goals for the Jets. So they really did take advantage of a team that is struggling with its structure, despite, running back almost the same pieces that made them the President's Trophy winners 1 year previous. So no doubt that was impressive. And you're right, the fourth line continues to do a fantastic job, Huss. I mean, we've talked about this for years, how they needed to become a fourth line team, and now they have the personnel to back it up. And those guys they've become like a second checking line, but not second in terms of, inability or whatever you want to call it. I mean, they're not outscoring their opponents the way that the Lowry line is, but they've been really sound, mostly defensively after a couple early hiccups. And although they haven't been filling the net, they're piling up chances, Huss, right? Rasmus Kupari has 2 goals at even strength. He could have 5 probably, right? And people know how I feel about Kupari. I thought he impressed me in that first camp with his ability to generate. He just isn't a natural finisher, or he's not playing with the same level of confidence as a natural finisher, but he's playing with a lot more confidence, which has led to him creating more opportunities. Now, if he could ever get like the third one or the fourth one to go, he could easily be in the contention for double digits. And I know that my good man Sean Reynolds sends me evergreen tweet every time I send that to him, but it is really impressive the way he's been able to generate. His skating is always been exceptional, but he's found another gear, and it's leading to a ton of chances. And us, here's another thing. Morgan Barron is a guy who I think can be a 15-plus goal scorer. Right now, he has 0, but it's not for lack of opportunity. And again, if he gets an empty netter like the one he sailed wide the other day, I think that he's going to start playing with even more confidence. But it's really a luxury. Alex Iafallo, this is peak Matthew Perreault territory for Iafallo in terms of what he's doing for me. It's a $4 million luxury on the fourth line, but it's something that makes the Jets even better. When Alex Iafallo is on the fourth line, it means there's an insane amount of depth on the roster, and that's what we're seeing. And I would say this too, back one last thing about the defense, and I felt this way from the beginning. Hayden Fleury steps in after 11 consecutive healthy scratches, and it looks like he hasn't missed a beat. And to me, that's an acquired skill, and he deserves a lot of credit for him, which is one of the reasons why I wrote about him in today's Winnipeg Free Press.
Yeah, no, listen, he did everything that was asked of him, and it wasn't an easy spot. You spend 3 weeks plus out of the lineup, and then here you go, MSG, New York Rangers.
And a track meet, like Scott Arniel said, right? You go from 0 to 100 in a snap of a finger, essentially, right? So I thought he handled that really well, and I know that he gave a lot of praise to Rob Zettler, who's assistant coach here with the Lightning, about how he helped his development. And I know Hayden's going to want to play really well today. He had a chance to spend some time with his buddies, former teammates yesterday on the off day, and I'm sure he's going to want to show the folks who allowed him to become a UFA that they probably should have kept him around a little bit longer.
Well, listen, he's been great when he's been in, and I mean, it's hard to nitpick on anyone that's not pulling their weight right now with the Jets, but Iafallo in particular, I think, has just been brilliant this year. A huge part, maybe the driving force, along with the speed of Kupari and Morgan Barrett on that line. But as I said, I mean, that is about the highest compliment you can give to a fourth line, that they looked like the Adam Lowry line with the way they were living against the Rangers. And Iafallo's doing it on the PK. He's contributing on the power play. He's doing it in many, many different ways. Bring to tonight, we just saw these teams go at it in a pretty wild one a couple Sundays ago, Ken. Fill us in on the lineup. I mean, all systems go, just rolling everything from Tuesday with the exception of a change in net.
Yeah, you bet. And that's someone that we had circled for a while here, and not surprising that Comrie gets the game. And again, it's not a slap in the face to the Lightning. The Lightning played their backup against Winnipeg in that matchup because Vasi had started all but one game, right? So Eric Comrie needs to play, and we talked about this. In order for Comrie to be 20-plus, he's going to have 5 by the end of game 21. So that puts him right on track for, the 20 to 24 he's going to get probably this year with the Four Nations. So Eric Comrie, 3-0, good opportunity. Again, he hasn't played for a while, 5 in a row for Hellebuck, but Comrie's got to get action. And I think Scott Arniel also, again, I was trying to get an understanding of philosophy. And when Arniel told me his philosophy is to make sure you get the first one, I mean, that's a pretty good indicator that it'll be Hellebuck against Pittsburgh also, and it'll be Comrie against Nashville, even though it's a divisional opponent. So I think Comrie's hungry for this one. I mean, he's a guy who he loves the game so much. He works incredibly hard every day, whether he's the starter or the backup. And it's important for him to stack wins against a team like the Lightning that, even though they won't have Braden Pointhus, who continues to deal with that groin issue that he suffered against the Jets, they're still a pretty potent club. You look at Kucherov, you look at Brandon Hagel, you look at Jake Gensel, and it's going to be fun to watch again. Connor Geekie, you noticed us in that first one. He was all over the place. Had a great catch-up with him this morning with the former Winnipeg Ice forward. That'll be in the free press tomorrow. He's fired up for another meeting, and it's going to be his 15th game as a rookie. And high praise from John Cooper when I asked him about him, and high praise from Victor Hedman as well. And that Victor Hedman's not just tossing out bouquets to every rookie who rolls through the office.
Hey, Ken, I mean, you've been on this road trip. I mean, I'm sure you saw a lot of people in New York already, folks in Florida, in and around it. What are the media from outside of the market, south of the border? What are they asking you about the Jets, and how much attention is this team garnering as they continue on this run?
Yeah, for sure, Huss. I mean, Greg Wyshynski, our pal, was at the game the other night. National member of the media with ESPN. Lots of folks just curious about where things stand, and they came away very impressed, both after the morning skate and talking to a bunch of players. Kyle Connor speaking with Wyshynski about the strong start, and also, Team USA. So, yeah, I mean, people are impressed by what's happening. And again, John Cooper said the biggest compliment you can give the Jets is that they don't beat themselves. And John said, and as someone in John Cooper who knows a little bit about winning based on the banners he's put up in this building, he said, if you don't beat yourself on a lot of nights, you're going to win a lot of games. So he's been very impressed by what the Jets have done out of the gate. It's virtually impossible to keep up this rate of winning efficiency, but the way they're able to stick to their structure will allow them to be, a premier team, barring a bunch of injuries or, reverting to 2 years ago when they decided to stray from the structure in the second half. But this team is so dedicated to the structure, there's really no indication that they're going to do anything but try to improve over the course of the year, even though that's incredibly hard to do, despite putting 30 points in the bank in 16 outings.
Ken, where are you at with the Jets PK right now?
Yeah, signs of improvement. I think it's been better. It was always going to be a work in progress, given the pressure points and everything else. Yeah, have they allowed power play goals? let me tell you something, Huss. There's a lot of talented teams in the league with a good power play. The Rangers being one of them, the Tampa Bay Lightning being another one of them, even though one of their bigger power play weapons no longer resides in the OP spot. But they've been doing fine. They've impressed me for the most part. I think they have a good plan, and I think they're going to continue to get better on the PK. Again, power play's been out of this world, and we've talked about it a ton. I don't expect them to be rolling at 42%, but they're going to be well above what they were last year, and that serves them well in the long run also.
Ken, I can't have you on this week without talking about the big game on Sunday. How about that win last Saturday, first of all, by the Bombers, and the scene at Princess Auto Stadium on one of the most memorable sporting Saturdays we've had, although that started off on a very, very sad note, losing our dear friend Ted Wyman.
Yeah, that was tough for sure. And, it was a fun sports day nonetheless, Huss. And I think anyone who knew Ted sort of just wanted to enjoy the day itself. And there's no doubt the Bombers put up an impressive win after the Jets' most complete effort of the season. Very impressive job by Zach Collaros. Huss, I can remember being on with you, back in June, maybe July, when I covered some of those early matchups. And, much like the Jets' top line being -7 in goal differential, Zach's touchdown to interception ratio was not Collaros-esque early, but man, have they ever turned the tables. The defense really rolling, special teams, with the exception of, not a great outing this week, Castillo being one of the best kickers, etc. The offense getting into beast mode of its own with Brady and Nick Dembski and Kenny Lawler going wild. I think it's going to be an unbelievable game. I was in Regina covering the last Grey Cup when these two teams met, and that ridiculous ending with the 2 blocked field goals in the last 2 minutes. I know how disappointed the Bombers were to have lost that first one of 2, and I know there's a lot of hunger to get the job done here on Sunday in Vancouver. I wish I had been with you in the seats on Saturday, but it blew at the Princess Auto, but had to catch both of those at home with having to sneak the show in and everything else. Certainly a lot of people talking about Teddy even on this road trip. I had a chance to go to one of his favorite restaurants, Piccola Cucina, in New York, sort of a little bit of a tip of the cap that he liked to wear on this program. Kim's the person who found it, probably in 2019, but was a really good meal there. And certainly, I know he had Hammer on. There've been a lot of heartfelt tributes, and yeah, there's no doubt it's been a tough week for a lot of folks. But Ted fought the good fight and squeezed the juice out of every orange, and it's a good reminder to folks to hug the people that are important to you and do those things that are important to you when you have the chance to do so in good health. So RIP to Teddy. I know, Huss, I'm sure you've been talking to a lot of people sharing memories this week in Vancouver, and that's important for the grieving process too, folks. As someone who knows a thing or two about loss, when you share those happy memories and thoughts, it's a great way to keep those people alive in your day-to-day, even though they're not here anymore.
I know Farhan is going to pop by a little bit later on today on the program, and I will just tell you while you're here and all of our listeners, last night was the annual media party. You guys did a great job welcoming everyone. A great little tavern right on the water, very close to actually where we're at right here at the Grey Cup Festival. But Farhan, opened up, with a few words, and then, spoke about Ted and, and said, we don't want to do, Ted would not want a moment of silence, but everyone raised their drinks and, and then obviously everyone spread out and did some stories. It was, stories about Ted, and obviously the stickers are everywhere. And, we kind of said that, coming out of the week, that the show, but really this week, Grey Cup week, sort of dedicated to him because, he was a sports guy, a Winnipeg sports guy, obviously a journalist, but also someone that absolutely loved the Canadian Football League. And Grey Cup week was perfect for such a fun individual like Ted Wyman. And man, he's missed this week, but it definitely not forgotten as the Bombers go for some more history.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's why we you always hear me talk about joy level. Ted kept a pretty high joy level even throughout the toughest parts of the battle, as Jeff pointed out to you. Huss is someone who spent a lot of bedside time with them during this stretch. So that's important, right? And raising a glass to the people that matter is important. You're right. Ted loved our community. He loved covering the sporting teams, and he's the guy who waved the Manitoba flag around the world, whether it's at the Olympics or any of the other high caliber events he covered on the curling front, on the football front, on the hockey front, and everywhere else. So, yeah, he's going to be missed, no doubt. He was my boss, and like I said, more importantly, he was my friend, and guy loved music, and most importantly, he loved life. And loving life is a good way to live on a lot of days, Huss.
Yeah, well, you're living life right now on the road in the heat of Florida, coming from New York, Kenny, now to FLA, Kenny. How did you spend the off day? By the way, you got 18? I'm sure, didn't you?
Well, I had a crack of dawn flight and made sure to get my column done during the day. But yes, I did sneak in 18 at Fox Hollow yesterday, late afternoon affair after getting my work done. It's a classic Robert Trent Jones course. I think it's the last one that he developed. It was super fun. Managed to keep her in the mid 80s and snuck a couple birdies on the card. Huss, it was the joy level. Let's just put it this way: joy level was high despite a 5 a.m. wake up call. So again, make the minutes count, baby. Make the minutes count.
Good stuff, buddy. I was hoping that you would get a run. You would be able to get a round in for sure. But the main event is tonight. How much fun have these shows been for you and Sean? I mean, Randy's obviously had to walk back many takes from the start of the season, but I'm sure he's been more than happy to do so. The vibe in the chat room from, whether it's our show, your show, I see guys, I mean, this is a really special run. I mean, I get so excited. I'm always fired up to see the team play, but holy smokes, Ken, it's almost like there's a countdown to puck drop right now with the way things are going.
Yeah, Hassan, I mean, too, like, we talk about moments that matter. I mean, so just a quick off the cuff here. Like, so whenever I walk into this building, Huss, at Amalie Arena, I'm transported to 2022, right? When I got to cover my first Stanley Cup final front to back after spending basically an entire month with the Avalanche and being on the ice when they had handed out the cup. That's, literally a career highlight for me. So when you talk about the historic nature of the run we're chronicling, it's really ridiculous. And we've quite frankly never seen anything like it, right? Even, as two people who watched the Jets 1.0 era pretty closely, us mostly as teenagers, we never had, they had fun teams. You had Solani's run, you had Howard Chuck, but you never had a historic run of this kind of magnitude. So, and I know you're seeing it in the chat room too, the interest level in the shows have been unbelievable, right? So the YouTube show from the Dallas game on Super Sports Saturday, over 4,500 people on the YouTube alone, let alone the 1,300 or 1,500 downloads. So people are invested, they're passionate about it, and I mean, for sure, it's fun to talk about something we haven't seen happen in the NHL, which has been around for over 100 years. And don't discount. I mean, and you're not, but I mean, in our community, as someone who grew up with a father who is an Eskimo dynasty fan, don't discount the greatness being shown for a team going to a 5th consecutive Grey Cup for the first time since those, dynastic Eskimos, now Elks teams, right? It's really crazy. And someone at the rink today asked me about Bud Grant, right? So like the Bombers have reverberated all the way to Tampa, Florida here. So yeah, it's been really neat to see. And hey, we know there's tension coming for this team, whether it's this weekend when they'll see Paul Maurice on the weekend, or a Tuesday back in Winnipeg, or whether it's during that, season-long 6-game road trip. The tension is coming. But as I've been saying for a long time, and I think the Jets are finally starting to prove me to be right, all that scar tissue you mentioned at the beginning, now this team is better equipped to handle that tension that is around the corner and potentially on the horizon, no matter when it shows up.
Well, listen, I'm with you on all of that. The other thing, and it's funny, I'm going to have to go back to, I think it might have been the show we did after the opening game of the season with the win over Edmonton. But there is an air of an opportunity for these guys to right the wrongs of the past and be better and do all that. But there's also that the conference with all these guys that are playing with such massive stakes for themselves personally this year, Ken, with the amount of unrestricted free agents, restricted free agents, and all of that. I mean, and so far, the coaches, the team has managed it incredibly, and it's all coming together. Look at this, Papa Moj taking care of the boys with a nice little sandy for the for the fellas. You don't mind that? You don't mind that, Kenny?
I love a good sandwich, Huss.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no doubt. This is quite beautiful. I will show the camera if you can. Not sure where Moj got this, but
buddy. Looking good.
Yeah, no doubt. Not bad. Needless to say, Remis is no longer producing the show and is now just fully on the thing.
Better go to the next guest.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, listen, man. Great stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the game tonight. Of course, Saturday in Florida. And does your flight get you back in time to see the football game?
Plus, I have a veteran move in advance. WestJet has just added a Monday direct flight from Fort Lauderdale, so get some writing done in the morning, some golf in the afternoon, and then the Grey Cup. Going to be able to tee it up with Guy Bieber, good Winnipegger there, and his wife Jody, and then catch the game with them.
Justin joining
at their place.
He can,
I don't believe so. I think he's tied up. So should be a lot of fun, though. It's going to be great.
Good stuff. Hey, listen, have a great show afterwards. Look forward to the hockey game first tonight, and then see what you and Rennie have cooking for Jet fans on KNR after tonight.
Yeah.
And, of course, we'll read it all in the Winnipeg Free Press while your colleagues like Jeff Hamilton are here getting ready for the Bombers and Argos.
Us have a blast, and please send everybody there my best. I know you had a special appearance from Justin Dunk, photo bomb the other day. Yeah. I sent him a message. I know there's a lot of people who love the game and love life out there. Send them my best and enjoy the ride. It's been quite a fun one to witness, and enjoy covering it, and also enjoy your time in the seats as well on Sunday, Huss. I know that's going to be your favorite part, even though you love what you're doing currently.
It certainly will be. Listen, the entire Grey Cup experience. We're going to try and get it all in. Wiebe, thanks so much for the time as always, buddy. We'll look forward to KNR tonight.
Have a great day, my man. Cheers.
All right, good stuff. There is our pal Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Again, puck drop just after 6 p.m. from the Amalie Arena in Tampa, where the Jets look to go 16-1 on the season and set another NHL record in the process. Let's give a quick cheers to our good friends over at Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
You can get your Little Brown Jug on actually at Boston Pizza, Polo Park, and other select BPs. BP, the place to be tonight, 6 p.m. Pick a player contest. Chance to win great food and prizes from Boston Pizza. Swag from Royal Sports. And, of course, every Jet game, you will also be able to enter to win the grand prize trip for two to Boston to see the Jets and Bruins later on this season. Airfare, deluxe hotel, tickets to the game, and tickets for the Celtics and Bulls the night before at the TD Garden as well. For Winnipeg Jets hockey and a big Thursday nighter tonight between the Commanders and the Eagles, make it Boston Pizza and plan if you're looking for a great spot to gather with your gang on Sunday for the big game. BP will be rocking at every location throughout the province of Manitoba. And hey, shout out to our friends over at Royal Sports. You know, of course, Royal has all sorts of Bomber gear ready for you. Brand new display. Check out their Instagram. It's up there right now. But if you want to get something perfect for the game on Sunday, get on down to Royal Sports. But anyone that knows Royal, they've also been the leaders in skateboarding in Winnipeg for a long time. Check this out. It's the 30th anniversary of Chocolate Skateboards, the 50th anniversary of Royal, and next year's the 25th anniversary of Kings Skate, Snow, and Surf. And, of course, the Bombers are in the 111th Grey Cup this Sunday. They're getting together to do a special edition skateboard deck. Winnipeg in the iconic chunk font from Chocolate in the beautiful Winnipeg blue bomber colors. It's limited to 25 8.25 inch and 25 8.5 inch. They are available now, exclusive. Get them before they're gone. It's all waiting for you down at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Check them out on Instagram at Royal Sports Pembina for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Very pleased to welcome in live our pal Jamie Nye from Saskatchewan. What's going on? How are you?
Great. How are you?
Oh, wait, hold on a sec. Do we not have him on the right one? Is this the right one, Reem?
Is this the right one?
There we go. There we go again.
Lucky number 3.
See, it's not a rudderless ship, but sometimes we go up and down the waves. Listen, great to see you last night. Before we kind of get into Grey Cup and a couple of your thoughts coming out of last weekend, really, really cool moment. I was just telling Ken, who of course worked with Ted Wyman for a long time, about the toast to him last night, and the one thing that's been really clear from talking to everyone is just how much Ted's missed right now. Certainly that was the case on Saturday at the game with his passing in the morning, but I think even more so this week because Ted was so much about Grey Cup.
Oh, yeah, especially with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers being in 5 straight, but before that, Ted Wyman was a guy who was holding down the fort, the FRC suite, the Football Reporters of Canada suite. He was Mr. Positive. Like, he was somebody that when the Bombers came for Labor Day games or just into Saskatchewan, I always look forward to hanging out with Ted Wyman because it was always going to be a good time. It was always going to be a positive time. It was always going to be a fun time. And yeah, we're missing Ted this week for sure because he loved this week. Oh my goodness, did Ted Wyman love a Grey Cup?
He lived for it. I mean, the CFL and of course the curling beat and the big curling events. And why is that? Because curling is so much fun. A lot of time in the patch, a lot of time with great people, and that's what Ted was all about. Back to Saturday, West Final. I mean, before you get your thoughts on the Grey Cup game, I mean, how did you see what happened between the Bombers and Riders in that game? And how were the Bombers able to be so much more successful in a game that I think we all thought was going to be a nail-biter, much like the other games that they played this season?
Yeah, we all thought it was going to be close, right? It was like this could be down to the wire and who knows. But the Winnipeg Blue Bombers just out-muscled them, like all over the field. And then the breakdowns in the secondary, it was not a well-prepared football team for the Rough Riders. They just did not execute nowhere near the level you need to execute to win a playoff game, which was surprising because they did it the week before against the BC Lions. They made Vernon Adams Jr.'s life hell in Saskatchewan. And maybe that was a little bit to do with some of the crowd noise and stuff, and you go into Winnipeg and it's the complete opposite. You're dealing with the crowd noise as an offense, but I didn't see them at all once go, they're thrown off by the crowd noise. It was the defensive secondary couldn't cover Kenny Lawler. I know he only caught 4 passes, but when you average over 40 yards per catch, that's a problem.
3 of them go for 6.
And they couldn't stop Brady Oliveira for the first time all season. All season they did a pretty good job, out of the backfield anyways, of stopping Brady. And then they couldn't do that, and that was where they got outmanned. They got pushed around by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
And we've talked a lot about the offensive line. That's going to be another huge story because, I mean, the Argos, to put it frankly, terrorized Zach Collaros this year. I mean, they had 7 sacks in their last game, 5 in the one before, like 12 in 2 games. I mean, that is significant. But the ability for the Bombers to establish a run, to me, was 2 things. Obviously, the offensive line stepped up and played better than they had against Saskatchewan at any point. But a lot of credit goes, I think, to Buck Pierce in the way they started the game off by letting Zach sling it and having some success doing that. And then all of a sudden, I think that forced the Riders not to just expect we got to quickly stop 20 and then force them to pass because they established it first.
Yeah, that was exactly the Riders previously could stack up and they caused some havoc there, but I don't know what it was. Like, it was just I looked at it was a new team, and I think a new coaching staff who kind of got taught a lesson a little bit on preparation for a playoff game.
And Cody Mace said as much of that after the game as well.
He said it was a bad game plan. Corey Mace put it all on him. He said it was a bad game plan. He didn't say it specifically that way, but I won't repeat how he said it. But yeah, he was quite blunt that it was on him on the defensive game plan anyways. But offensively, they also were sporadic and didn't really get anything going. So across the board, it was a beatdown by the Bombers.
Moving on, like I kind of said this beforehand. I'm not sure if there was a conversation with you or somebody else, but I kind of felt like the Riders, certainly the players didn't feel like they were playing with house money, but big picture, if you would go back a year ago and say, listen, the Riders are going to get a home playoff game. They're going to, establish a new culture. I mean, overall, a real successful season. Yeah. I think now that the disappointment of Saturday is a little bit in the rear view.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to say it's a successful season because when you go into the season, the expectations are they're going to be a better team. Maybe they get a home playoff game, but just get to the playoffs. So they got to the playoffs. They got a home playoff game. They took a big step forward. Now it's going to be interesting this offseason what they do to take the next step because like anything, there's always going to be changes. There's free agency in the CFL, one-year deals. Players are going to, so it'll be very interesting to see how they handle this offseason.
Speaking of the next step, who takes the next snap for the Saskatchewan?
I think it's still going to be Trevor Harris.
I think it'd be crazy not to bring him back. I mean, he was really good this year.
But in saying I think it's Trevor Harris, I think there's got to be room to try to find somebody with some CFL experience who's younger, if they can, to maybe start grooming here, because I don't think the answer is Shea Pasterson. Not sure about Jack Cohn, the Notre Dame guy behind him, but so I'll be interested to see how they approach this offseason and who shakes loose from different places, right? And who knows what's ahead, like with Montreal, with Cody Fajardo and Davis Alexander decision. If one of those shakes loose, although I don't see Cody coming back to Saskatchewan, but if he goes somewhere else, does another quarterback shake loose there and all that?
If you had to bet on where VA starts next year, who's getting your nickel?
I believe I'm going to go with Edmonton.
I've kind of been thinking Edmonton as well.
Calgary, everybody thinks it's obvious it's going to be Calgary, but I don't know about, well, who gets hired in Edmonton? Let's find out that first. And if that matches up, then it makes even more sense. I just don't feel like Dave Dickinson is going to go after a Vernon Adams Jr. That hasn't been a quarterback type of player that's really been in Dave's offense. It has been very much pocket passer heavy with a tiny bit of scrambling. So we'll see.
Jamie Nye's with us. You're just about to get going with your show. Before we go, thanks again for jumping on.
Yeah, no problem.
How do you see this game shaking out? What are your thoughts on the 111th Grey Cup? Do the Bombers get it done, or is there another disappointment at the hands of a team that's handled them very well, winning both games this season despite not having their starting QB?
Your audience isn't going to like what I have to say.
Hey, listen, it's good takes, bad takes. They're all takes. They're all welcome.
I picked, it's public already published. I did pick the Toronto Argonauts to win the 111th Grey Cup.
You'll get some love back home for that pick, for sure.
Think, it's a bitter Rider fan that's picking the Argos. It's that defensive line that has gotten after Zach Collaros all season long, and if they can rush four, and I think the playmakers they have on defense and Janarian Grant on special teams. And Nick Arbuckle is surrounded by one of the best offensive lines, best running back, and one of the best receiving corps in the Canadian Football League. I just think there's a lot to like about the Toronto Argonauts going into this game. And if they have a big play early, how does Winnipeg not get that seed of doubt going, oh, here we go again.
Little tight collars. They seem to be all business. And certainly, I mean, you could have said the same thing going up. Like, I thought that challenge of the Riders, last week, I know it was in Winnipeg, they'll have the great crowd, but I thought that was going to be their biggest test that they've had in the playoffs in a long time. And they certainly handled it well, and it seems like they're similar on a mission, but you got to finish and you got to execute. And I will say this, they better not have a special teams day against the Argos like they did against the Rough Riders, because I don't think that's going to cut it in the Grey Cup.
No, because they got Janarian Grant, and Liam Hiralahu is a pretty good kicker, and they got one of the better punters too. Special teams is all Toronto on that, so we'll see. Coming from his former special teams coordinator, though, I think Mike O'Shea will have that cleaned up.
There's a couple extra meetings, I'm sure, coming up this week. Fill people in. I know there's a lot of folks that can't get enough coverage from Grey Cup. I mean, you're going to be on Peter streaming as well. Fill people in on what you're cooking up from Van.
Yeah, the Green Zone, of course, on 980 CJME, 650 CKOM. CJME.com, CKOM.com is to find the stream. Of course, the podcasts are up, and we'll have live guests today, bunch of live guests tomorrow from Radio Row here in Vancouver. They've done a pretty darn good job. I remember the last Grey Cup here 10 years ago, and it did not have this same vibe in downtown Vancouver.
Not at all.
Like, none. So I'm liking what I've seen by Amar Doman and company, who's put this show on for the 111th Grey Cup.
Dude, have a great one. We'll see you later on. And tip one. Appreciate you jumping on with us. There's Jamie Nye, CJME, the Green Zone in Regina. We won't hold that pick against him. I think he probably would be getting a lot of heat back home if he picked the Bombers to win. That being said, listen, there's a lot of reasons to think that the Argos are going to be able to compete, even if you see what the point spread is and the bookies are saying it's Bombers big time. Listen, we're going to get to the cool bet lines in just a minute. But Remo, we were speaking about Ted's passing. There's another really sad story right now in Winnipeg sports, and we've got an update from the Sea Bears on the status of Chad Postumus, and I'm not sure if you want to bring this up for folks that they can read it, but the Sea Bears put this out this morning. Chad underwent a long and complex surgery that successfully repaired a large brain aneurysm. Unfortunately, there were complications, and he is now in critical condition in the intensive care unit. The Postumus family, along with Chad's partner Megan, are very grateful for the outpouring of support and continued prayers for Chad. We ask that you please provide them with privacy during this difficult time. We continue to keep Chad and family in our thoughts. Thank you for all the support, Sea Bears Nation. That is just some really, really concerning news about someone that is such a big part of the Sea Bears history here in Winnipeg, and also a guy that was basically the face of the franchise since the Sea Bears came back. So Remis is just occupied for a minute, but I'll send my thoughts out to Chad Postumus, the family, the Sea Bears, on behalf of us here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Just hoping for some good news moving forward, and I know everyone in the WST chat feels the same way. Chad was just saying, Reem, Chad, such a big part of the launch of the Sea Bears, such a generous guy with his time for us here on the program, and just horrible news that we got that he's now in critical condition, and I think the entire sporting community here in Winnipeg and across the league just hoping that we'll get some good news moving forward on Chad's situation.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. There were people asking for updates, and shout out to the Sea Bears for providing those, but definitely it's upsetting seeing the news. And yeah, he is the Winnipeg Sea Bear. He's the original one. Been on this show many times, promoting the Sea Bears, promoting the league. When you were away, I had a great conversation with him as well. And I was excited about playing basketball. He played 3-on-3 for Team Canada, and just incredibly saddened to see that he's in critical condition in ICU, and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and again, I mean, when there are updates, we will certainly provide them here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But in the meantime, send all the positivity you can this way to the big guy, Chad Postumus, the first ever Winnipeg Sea Bear. Let's do some fan feedback for Fans First. Fansfirst.ca, the best place to buy and sell tickets on the resale market in Winnipeg. I know many people went to Fans First to see if they can find a way to get into that sold-out game on Saturday, and we're successful. Remis is actually peering out fans first, potentially thinking about going to this Canucks-Islanders game tonight.
Yeah.
There's actually some pretty good deals. Of course, bottom line with fans first, no fees. What you see is what you pay, and certainly the most customer-friendly place to sell seats at all. First off, with fan feedback, and this isn't much on any hot takes or anything, but just so many comments for Chad Postumus here. Prayers to Chad and his family. Prayers to Chad. All the best, Chad. We are all pulling for you. Come on, Chad. My heart is broken for him and his family. Listen, the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat, whether people are big-time Seabears fans or not, are very familiar with Big Chad Postumus and what he's meant to that organization, and how much we've loved to have him on the show. So lots of positivity for Chad in it. Also moving in, many takes on the Grey Cup. Comment, Argos play us tough. It will be low scoring and close. Bingo Bango is down with Sergio Castillo. He's going to win it for us. Rob Mahoney's back. He's picking the Bombers to win. And yes, Yin Vivian saying it's not easy being green. Bully ball all to the way crap from Phyllis. And a whole lot more coming up. Again, that's all coming in the chat today. Fan feedback brought to you by fans first, by fans, for fans, no fees. All right, let's get to the Cool Bet lines before we wrap up the program. We will have CFL 110 a little later on today, probably in a half hour or so. What you're going to do is turn your notifications on or just hang around with us. Here's the latest on the Grey Cup, folks. The Bombers are 9-point favorites in this game, minus 109 on either side. Toronto plus 9, minus 455 on the money line to win. So you'd have to bet $455 to win 100. Conversely, 100 on the Argos will pay $355 on that. The number that stands out to me, though, is the under. 51 is the total for this game. I'm stunned. I thought this would be 46, 47. Maybe both offenses are going to bring it more than they did head-to-head earlier on this season. Still seem to be a little surprisingly high, and I wouldn't at all be surprised to see that number come down later on this week. Are there any Jonas Brothers fans out there? Because we were trying to do a little Jonas Brothers analytics today on the Lock Shop, trying to figure out what will their first song be played at halftime and their last song played at halftime. The first song, the favorite is Celebrate at plus 275. I think I'm going to lean on Burnin' Up at 4-1. And then Sucker is their most streamed song on Spotify by quite a bit. So I think they finish with that. They're not selling anything. There's no new album, I don't think. So we're going to go plus 335 on Sucker. But yes, there is a Jonas Brothers prop available right now at CoolBet. So you can jump on that. The passing numbers, Nick Arbuckle's number's actually gone up from 255 to 260. Zach Caleros is at 262.5. And Brady Oliveira's rushing yards has gone up from 71.5 to 76.5 for the game. Click on the game. There'll be more props coming in on the weekend, but they're up right now at CoolBet. Again, use that promo code WST for a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. As far as the pucks go tonight, as Remis mentioned right off the bat, the Jets actually are an underdog tonight. Plus 113. Very similar number to what we got them against the Rangers a couple nights ago. Tampa's at minus 133. Other games tonight in the league, Devils and Panthers. Panthers 159 favorites. Rangers massive favorites, minus 390 against the Sharks. The Sens minus 189 favorites at home to the Sens. Buffalo minus 164 favorites, home to the Blues. A lot of big home favorites tonight. Dallas minus 175, home to the Bruins. Wild minus 263, home to the Habs. Oilers minus 173, home to the Predators. Kraken minus 164 favorites, home to the Blackhawks. And the Canucks, the game Remis might get tickets at Fans First to go to, minus 189 favorites at home to the Islanders. This is the first time I can remember is we have a 10-game slate and not a single road favorite in the entire in the entire slate tonight. So we will check out all of that. How are things looking for tickets right now?
Prices are dropping for us for this Canucks Islanders game if we want to go.
$70 get in.
It was $90 to get in a couple days ago. So I'm willing to wait. I'm not dying to go. I've never been to a game here, so it's on my list. But I'm waiting to get the best deal, and I'm keep refreshing fans first.
Well, that you keep on doing that. That's exactly what we want to do. And in the meantime, check out the NHL lines, big slate of games tonight. And, of course, we've got a great Thursday nighter from the NFL. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders go into Philly to take on the Eagles. Big NFC East matchup. Eagles, 4-point favorites at home to the Washington Commanders. But, listen, this is Winnipeg Sports Talk. The focus tonight is on Tampa. The Jets looking to go 16-1 on the season and set another NHL record in the process. And, of course, the focus is on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Media availability later on this afternoon. We'll get out there for that. Practice tomorrow heading into the weekend, and the big game on Sunday as the Bombers look to truly establish a dynasty with their third championship in 5 years and 5 straight dates to the Grey Cup. And, of course, tonight in Vancouver, Brady Oliveira looks to make history as only the 4th Canadian to win the CFL's most outstanding player, seemingly a lock for the most outstanding Canadian. Could be bringing back a lot of hardware, which will be nice, but we know what Brady came here for, and that's a ring, a Grey Cup ring, along with the rest of his teammates. We'll have a big show tomorrow, continuing our coverage from the Grey Cup Festival here in Vancouver. Keep your eyes on the social media. Oh, we didn't even show the Matt Dunnigan picture.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want me to bring it up here?
Yeah, okay, this is the highlight, folks. This to end. So, media party last night. Hung out with Milt, got a chance to talk to Kari Jones, a bunch of the TSN guys. But Remis has a picture. Show the old picture first.
Here, I'll show this picture.
You describe where it came from.
Okay, so
the origin story.
So here's us and Milt from last night.
Yeah.
But I've had this picture in my on an old photo book. Okay, I have never shown this on the show. This is me and Matt Dunnigan. This is from...
Your hair is pretty light back then.
Yeah, this is early 90s. It was at the Athletes Wear. They had a new opening. We knew the owner. We went for autographs. I still have that binder that I'm holding with some autographs in there at home. It was him and Gerald Wilcox. So we went. That's my brother wearing a Bombers t-shirt that he had autographed. And I've had this picture for a while. Being like, hey, if I ever ran into Matt Dunnigan, it'd be funny to bring up. And this has been like 30 years. So I showed Matt Dunnigan the picture yesterday.
He lost it. He loved it. He's like, you got to send that to me. You got to send that to me.
I got emailed him. He had to take out his glasses to look at it. And so then we're like, okay, let's recreate it. And I'm going to post this on our social media. So don't no one else do it. I need to do it. But,
yeah, you get the first look here.
Here's us yesterday. There's us yesterday.
Look how he's grown.
Look how we've both grown. So
still got the point and everything.
Yeah, there's the
Dunnigan has so much swag.
So there it is from yesterday. There it is 30 years ago. Pretty close. We almost did it dead on. So this is pretty... It's pretty amazing to do that. I'll have to tweet it out and post it on Instagram.
Great photo credit by us.
We made sure to go to a table too, actually, to recreate it.
We did exactly that. So there you go. There's a little fun for the end of the program, recreating the Matt Dunnigan picture, and people are enjoying that in the chat as well. All right, that's going to do it for us. Enjoy the game tonight, folks. Go Jets, go! And coming up in about 20, 25 minutes or so, we'll have CFL 110 coming up right here, back live on the channel from the Grey Cup Festival. But for Michael Remis, I'm Andrew Pasterson. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. for Grey Cup Friday from Vancouver as the Bombers count down to the big game on Sunday. Have a great one, everybody.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.